I love putting the past to good use, like learning from mistakes. That feels good. Incorporating my grandparents' furniture into my home, actually learning lessons from history, heavy ones, deep ones, hard ones, making use of a heartbreak by writing a really good song, discovering amazing opportunities for social interactions through dance, all because of a disease I got when I was younger. But we'll get into that. Here we go. We will get into that. When I was in elementary school, my mom read us this book called Terrible Things. It was about animals in the forest, and at first, the terrible things came to take away the squirrels. And the owls and the deer and the rabbits and the porcupines did nothing because they were not squirrels. Then the terrible things came for the deer, but the owls and the rabbits and the porcupines did nothing because they were not deer. Then they came for the owls. You get the picture. Finally, the terrible things came for the last animals in the forest, and there was no one left to stand up for them. My mom took this book and turned it into an interactive play for elementary school students and for their assemblies. The kids made paper plate masks so they could play a part of an animal or a terrible thing. Then they acted out the book just as it was written. Then they all sat down and had a conversation about how they wished the story had gone differently. My brilliant mom then let them reenact the play from the beginning, but this time they were allowed to ad-lib. When the terrible things entered the forest for the squirrels on the very first page, all the animals jumped up and screamed to protect the squirrels, even though they were owls and deer and rabbits and porcupines, forever scaring away the terrible things out of the forest. Just remembering that assembly makes me think it's time to revive that paper plate mask play, but for adults, right now. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you for your attention, as I now have the great privilege of sharing my story. But I only have 20 minutes, and my story has a Beethoven amount of notes. Whole chords play one after the next, the notes of different lives I lead, sometimes dissonant, sometimes harmonic. I'm an entrepreneur, currently owning and operating 2 businesses, birthed out of my deepest passions. I'm an activist. How can I not be with a mom like that? I'm an artist. I'm a painter, a musician, a thinker, a dancer, looking for personal growth in every waking moment. I'm a teacher. I'm a big picture, large brushstroke gal, and I'm so grateful for your presence today because this gave me the opportunity to try to write my story in a way that makes sense. I grew up in a Jewish household in LA. Mom, dad, sister, brother. Shabbat dinners with homemade challah bread every Friday night. Argentine grandparents on one side, New York grandparents on the other. Since I was 8, I knew I wanted to be an interior designer. I was drawing floor plans and giving client interviews to my classmates when all they wanted to do was get back to their handball game at recess. At 17, I moved myself to the middle of the country, to Columbia, Missouri, to the University of Missouri, where I was in a band, I studied abroad, I learned about farming, I learned to speak more slowly, and then I graduated with an interior design degree. Boom, 21 years of life in one short paragraph. After graduating, in the real world, with no more big, lofty design school projects and imaginary clients, I did freelance work, and my first big project was a community garden for wheelchair access. But the plot of land just south of the garden was purchased by a developer who then tore that little house down and built a 5-story apartment building, which completely blocked all of our southern sunlight. So after a year of design work and preparation, the community garden plans were canceled. I want to preface this next chapter of my life with this. My parents always said they wanted me to be happy, but they never said anything about being wealthy. So this next train of thought took place on a drizzly day in March over the course of about 30 seconds. I realized that my own happiness in my interior design career was going to be completely reliant on my client's happiness and the outcome of the project. I didn't want to be so dependent on others' happiness to have enough of my own, so I quickly searched my mind for something that made me the most happy. I needed a straight path to joy. I landed on tango dancing. And then for some reason, my mind went directly to, I am going to be a great teacher of this dance. A dance, mind you, that I had barely studied for less than a year. But that didn't stop me. So I packed up my things and drove across the country to Massachusetts to apprentice with a tango teaching guru that lives out there. This guy had studied with all of the historically important tango teachers in Buenos Aires during the revival of tango dancing culture in the late 80s, once democracy took the reins back from the military dictatorship in Argentina. Okay, put a pin in that. We'll be right back. When I was 17, I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. No doctor knew why. Maybe it had to do with the stress and pressure I put on myself. Or maybe it was my ancestors' traumas, not my own. Maybe it was their stress of escaping persecution for being Jewish in Russia and Poland. I don't know, but it could be. Anyway, back in college, my Western medicine wasn't fully doing the job, so I met with ancient Chinese medicine doctors, an extremely witchy chiropractor, and multiple naturopathic doctors. I got blood work back that said I was allergic to pretty much everything: gluten, dairy, eggs, soy, mustard, apples, cinnamon, the list goes on, and that I shouldn't drink alcohol either. For the next 8 months, I was afraid to eat a single meal outside of my own apartment while I was learning what my diet meant and how to feed myself again. I started a blog to share my recipes with other restricted dieting folks to help me feel less alone while I cooked and experimented and ate. www.theallergichedonist.blogspot.com. It was a Blogspot era. It was during this time that I took up salsa dancing. As a 21-year-old in Missouri, it was the only social activity I could find that didn't revolve around pizza or beer, neither of which I could enjoy anymore. Then salsa somehow led me to tango, and that is when I fell in love with the culture, the art form, its embrace, and all of its beautiful antique social rules. Imagine if playing chess, a glass of red wine, an orchestra, making love, then hanging out and socializing with friends till the sun comes up all got together and had a baby. That was my tango. So fast forward to that pin. I moved into my guru's big group house in Western Massachusetts to apprentice to become a great tango teacher. I showed him my food blog, and he decided that I could cook breakfast, lunch, and dinner for him and his family in exchange for my room in the house as well as my tango studies. It was a very happy time. Even when all I had was $50 in food stamps a week, I was living the dream. Studying tango, traveling cheaply, crashing on floors and sofas all around the East Coast and Canada, I had found my happiness. After studying for 13 months straight, I hit the road alone as a young tango teacher, driving between Boston and LA, stopping in every town in my diagonal path, introducing myself to tango communities and building my network and connections for my tour that I kept up for the next 6 years. I'd leave my car in either Boston or LA, then fly to Buenos Aires and dance until my money ran out, be it 2 months or up to 5. Then I'd come back to the States and drive to the other side of the country and do it all over again. Soon I had a tango clothing line that I designed and made with my mom, and I started my own line of tango shoes that I still sell to this day, made by a third-generation shoemaking family in Buenos Aires. After 6 years of traveling and living out of suitcases, I was settling down and starting a life in Boston when a new boyfriend lured me out to Richmond, Virginia. That's how we all got here, I think. And although he and I are now just friends, I stayed in love with Richmond. With a huge gap in my interior design resume, I had to get started somewhere, so I ended up selling cabinets for Home Depot. Then I picked up some side gigs assisting other interior designers, and eventually I worked at a medium-sized firm. 3 years and a little bit of trauma later, I opened up my own company, and I was able to hire/rescue my friends from the last firms I worked at pretty soon after. It was in great thanks to some talented contractors that my company grew as quickly as it did. I speak Spanish, so I could respectfully communicate with the subcontractors. They liked working with me and kept on passing us work. The only reason I spoke Spanish was because of all that time I spent in Buenos Aires living the tango life, so I guess my resume wasn't that dry after all. My interior design company opened in the summer of the Black Lives Matter marches. My goal with my business, besides all the creative projects I was able to do, was to create the society I wish existed. I would get to be the employer who would treat their employees like people first and then pay them high hourly wages so they could live as fulfillingly as possible. My company grew, and I grew, but there was a really big tango-sized hole in my heart. I literally had to buy a plane ticket to New York, LA, or Argentina to get my happiness fix. Soon, after examining my lack of happiness in my settled down life, I met a very handsome, professional Argentine tango dancer at an event in LA. It was actually at the same place where I took my very first tango class. Then, by destiny, we met again 2 months later in New York. And then, 6 weeks later, at 5 o'clock on a Wednesday in October, we got married in my backyard. Don't worry, there's a Q&A after this. There's my mom with purple hair. She's back there. A few months into our marriage, we placed first and second in our 2 categories at the National Argentine Tango Championships in California. And when we got home, we decided to open a tango school here in Richmond instead of relying on traveling to larger tango communities to make a living. It was a long, uphill battle to have enough students to make the effort feel worth it. But here we are, 2.5 years later, with a real-life tango school. We have spring and fall semesters, we have summer programs and winter programs, and large monthly social dances that bring tango dancers together from all over the state. This past February, we even led a Dancer's Life tour of Buenos Aires for 7 of our Richmond students. It was a dream come true, and today, this Friday, literally after this speech, we are going to sign our first lease for our own commercial dance studio space in Midlothian. It is so exciting and so terrifying. My interior design company hung in there, even while I was busy tending to my other younger baby businesses, diapers, and sleepless nights. My team is strong and happy, and we're consistently working on 7 to 15 projects at once. We're so grateful to have built up a company that treats us well. Now, you may be surprised at what I actually do as the Anna version of an interior designer. In the same way that I got to fully realize my passion for tango, I help my clients by giving them permission to allow their passions to take up physical space in their lives. I look for layouts that give my clients opportunities to make connections and have conversations in person that they may not have been able to have before. I tailor their homes to have room for the person they want to be and help them feel comfortable being that person. My interior design company has nothing to do with keeping up with the Joneses or any neighbors for that matter. I'm usually helping regular people boil their ideas down so they can make the most of their realistic budgets but still love their space. I think about this art form like a finely tailored suit. A suit can be made of luxurious fabric and expertly sewn, but if it doesn't fit, it's just an uncomfortable suit. My interior design job is to make sure that each person feels comfortable allowing their true self to be expressed and supported by their environments. And I know that with this work, the gift of acceptance and love gets passed on to their circle of people, and then hopefully and ideally beyond that as well. If I can name the threads between my two careers, they would be composition, connection, and communication. And for the sake of this special occasion, revival. Composition in interior design moves with one's own body through space and time, through experiences, sights, sounds, smells, touch, thoughts, memories, feelings. Wait, or was that the composition of tango? Be it a good conversation, a room, a dance, the right lighting, composition is composition is composition. There's connection, physically, emotionally, energetically, to ourselves, to others, to communities, to history, to ideals. Okay, well, that's actually also the same between interior design and tango. Okay, we'll try communication, the art of listening, proposing, waiting, storytelling, reacting, and then listening again. So yeah, as you can see, interior design and tango are pretty much the same thing in my mind. They are my art, and I deeply love them both. And finally, revival. This video that's working and has music if you go to my Instagram page is from when we led a tour in Buenos Aires. We went to a cafe in Caminito where my husband used to dance tango for tips while clients ate over 20 years ago. It was a very sweet full circle moment when the dancers there invited us onto the stage to improvise one song, even in our sneakers. So revival, tango is an antique dance born in the late 1800s. It's had booms and busts throughout history, and I grew up listening to tango music at my grandparents' house. And I think it's high time that Richmond has a let's go out to the dance revival energy, where we can all put our phones down and be with other people in joyous, engaging, interesting, and safe ways. As a designer, the environmentalist in me is always looking for the revival of some old piece of furniture. Reusing pieces is what makes design interesting, and how we artistically tie the past with the present is what magic design is made of. And now, a word about that other melody intertwined in my lifelong musical. Throughout my life, I was the rabbit standing up for the squirrel, but that's just how I was raised. In elementary school, instead of doing my project on the California missions, I wrote about the Native people who were displaced and tortured instead, as a fourth grader. In junior high, while I studied and practiced for my bat mitzvah at Hebrew school, I studied the Holocaust in great depth. In college, I organized a marchathon fundraiser with the University Hillel, raising money for the Southern Poverty Law Center, as literal Nazis marched through our streets. I wrote to the head Nazi, personally, to let them know that they would be raising more money for us the more minutes they marched. So thank you. I think these are some of my most important credentials as a human. Oh, there's me. There was a lot of talk about Israel as I grew up. I've got cousins there. Everyone I know but me took that 10-day free birthright trip. My first kiss was with an Israeli boy. And it did feel like I had to reach into my past and rip some core memories out by their bloody roots to examine them when I finally came to the realization and the ability to see past the propaganda. But this is a Holocaust. Israel and the United States are the terrible things. And they certainly don't speak for me, nor Jews as a whole. Zionism doesn't represent Judaism any more than the KKK represents Christianity. The Palestinians now are facing the same torture and death that my own Jewish ancestors did not even 100 years ago. I wanted to tell you about these parts of me to show you that they can all exist inside one human. Planning up tango lessons and unique experiences for my students, finding deliciousness in a gluten and dairy-free life, helping bring joy to a forgotten corner of my client's home, and having the courage to stand up and speak out for the squirrels and owls of this delicate, beautiful, awe-inspiring world. The people who must speak out the loudest now are the ones who have the least to fear. I'm looking at you, dear. I'm looking at you, porcupine. I'm looking at you, fellow white, cisgendered, natural-born citizen of the United States. If we all stand up together loud enough and long enough, we can run the terrible things right out of the forest. And if I do it my way, I'll be dancing and singing and painting and designing and dreaming up a better way to do it, all at the same time. Thank you. Oh, there's a Q&A. I stay up here.
I can't speak, so y'all, questions.
Oh, what a great question. It's in Midlothian on Midlothian Turnpike, and it's so new that I haven't memorized the location yet. But there's a Food Lion next to it.
Holly, I think we do have cards, right? Is it on the cards?
It's not
even on the cards.
I'm literally signing it after this and paying the security deposit.
But we'll.
I do have a little plug about it, and that is if you know a social dance teacher, a private dance teacher, bar, yoga, mat, Pilates, Zumba, whoever, we'll be needing folks to rent about 10 hours from us a week, and we're looking to fill those spots with fabulous teachers, so please spread the word. Okay, that's my plug. All right. Yes.
So thank you for sharing, and it was amazing. I loved listening to every part of your journey.
Thank you.
I think as creatives, we all get to a point where we have a little bit of an existential crisis. I'm sure that's everyone, to be honest, but I noticed with a lot of creative people, you do one thing for a long time. Like for you did interior design for a long time. And then you got to a point where you were like, I have to do something completely, quote unquote, unrelated to interior design to rediscover your passion. And then you were able to combine it. I feel like I'm also at that point because I've kind of done the same thing for my entire life. I do what's safe and I stick to like my routine and just what I usually do. And sometimes it's a little bit scary to think about doing something different because then I'm thinking, well, if I like dance personally, but I never do it because I'm like, what if everyone that I know is like, well, you do this. Why are you signing up for dance classes when you spent all this time learning this skill? And like, how would that even inform what you already do? But you just kind of proved that you already proved. So how did you, how did you get to, you already explained it, but how do you deal with that, I guess, existential crisis, and to get like really honest with yourself? Because I don't personally enjoy digging up those kinds of existential crises.
I'm a digger. Whew. I like going to those deep, scary places and then asking why and then being really scared and then doing it anyway. But it's not going to kill you. So that's pretty much how I make my decisions.
But did you die though, right?
I didn't die. I didn't die. Wondering like, well, how am I going to pay for healthcare, or how am I going to support myself, or I guess it all comes down to those things that we all wish were given to us freely and that we didn't have to work or fight for. But I think that the magic is in the mixing, and that you don't know what's going to happen until afterwards. And so you never know, but something really tasty is going to come out of mixing new things and ingredients in new ways that no one's ever done before. And no one's ever been you before. So it's going to be very unique and tasty. And in the same way that I like mixing pieces that no one would usually think go together in interior design, it just is cool because it's never been done. So if it feels weird, like why is she signing up for dance class? I thought that she didn't like dance, or I thought that she's supposed to be sitting in front of a computer, or she's supposed to be out at trivia night, and now she's being vulnerable in a dance class. Like, what's up with that? But, their loss. Sign up for dance class.
Behind you. Laundry.
Oh.
Ladies first.
Oh.
As you know, I appreciate your desire to create a team that likes their job.
We work together.
Yeah. And I'm wondering who you are has shaped your approach to management, what challenges you've hit along the way around growing that team, and where you're at now with your relationship with your team.
Well, I've had really bad bosses in the past. Who's had a bad boss? So we've all learned what we don't want to be. But sometimes you feel it bubbling up a little bit inside, be like, oh, okay, I could see how this could go in that direction. I could see how I could get really upset and blame my employees for something. And so I just have to remember always why I started the company. It's not something that I can do on my own. Interior design takes a lot of people who know a lot of different things. There's the big picture, the little picture, the tiny, tiny picture, the ones making sure that the chair gets off the truck and down the ramp and then into the door. And I'm not interested in that kind of stuff, but I have people who are. So I know that we need each other to make it work. And I definitely don't want to have a company that fuels the society that I'm trying to leave. And so when things get hard, I remember like the whole point of this. The point isn't to be an interior designer. I could go around and help my friends make their houses pretty if I want to do that without the responsibility of being a boss. But the reason that I am a boss is because it's an amazing opportunity to change the world. Because if I can change my employees' lives, then they can change the lives of all the people around them. And so I forgot your question.
Great presentation. That was really phenomenal. inspiring on many levels. But question for you, since your career is so multifaceted and you do so much, how do you find time for rest to get revitalization and renewal and things like that?
Oh man, you're asking the hard question. Well, probably there's a few of you who have like turned all of your passions into businesses, I'm guessing, just being in this room. And here's literally how I rest. I look at the weather report and I see when it's going to be a nice day. And then I put that in my calendar for the week, and then I go to the river on that day at that time. And so my rest is very much depending on the weather. It's definitely hard to get the rest that I would get if I had a regular 9-to-5 job. And I know that because I've made my passions my career, it's all going to be mixed up in there, and the time that I'm, that people are supposed to. Anyway, I just have to put all those supposed tos aside and try not to compare myself to someone that has a different type of life built around different types of things. Because when I start comparing myself to how much rest I have compared to how much rest they have, well, it's not really a fair comparison, because there's nothing else that's the same. So I just try to hang out at the river.
We'll take one more. Oh, okay.
Hello. Well, I just wanted to say thank you. Everything that you were saying resonated with me in a lot of ways, especially around, I appreciate the way that you expressed composition, connection, and communication. And I've been in the field of software design and design in general for nearly 20 years. It's something that I appreciate, something that behind the screen or in the print world, I've continued to see challenges around it, incorporating human practices into very inhuman things. And one of the things around that is to be able to connect and to be able to come together, to be able to be vulnerable. Spaces do that a lot for me. I go to cafes and coffee shops on a regular, and these spaces are manifestations of what community can be. I just wanted to ask you, though, when it comes to this kind of convergence between dance and space making and interior design, what are some of the biggest things that you've felt have gotten in the way of being able to connect? Because out of communication and composition, connection, in my opinion, is one of the essential markers that brings about communication. Composition can come in and provide that forum and provide that space, but the vulnerability in connection with ourselves can be a very elusive thing. So I'm just curious.
Just to rephrase the question part of that again, what is coming in the way of things being more, people being able to connect more, because we have got we understand the composition and the communication part. So the interior designer in me is going to say lighting. Lighting, like a moth, if it's right, will pull you into the areas, will make you feel comfortable to be seen and want to be around other people. It really changes your mood. The temperature, the amount, where there's darkness and lighting and path following. And in tango class, tango is, I don't know, 90% confidence and 10% connection, or I'm making things up, but it's a place where you're supposed to be discovering that in particular. So it's something that we get to work with our students on about being vulnerable. We teach everyone in our classes to lead and follow, which helps it builds empathy for the other person's role and how hard it is. And that, I think, is probably the big key to how we are able to open up lines of connection in times when it would have been hard. So allowing for empathy and, learning completely about the other person's role enough that, you can appreciate it